All right, I'm here. I'm so glad you're there. Michael DDA here. We are in Kadesh Barnea. The first time they talked about Kadesh, they made it into wilderness of, here it is right here, the wilderness of Paran. And so I put this Kadesh here, if you can see on my map, where the hand is at. Is this a hand or is this a pointer, you guys? It's a hand for me. Might be a pointer for you guys. Anybody? All right. Well, so here's Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. I think this is really the Kadesh that we're talking about, and where it said we came to the Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran in Torah. I think it was really the wilderness of Zin, because it seems to be that Zin, same thing. Kadesh, holy. Barnea seems to mean, what was that?
I said it's a hand. It took me a while to find it, but I found it.
Oh, it is a hand. Okay, great. Thanks. I appreciate that, Fee. So holy in the wilderness is where it seems to be going. Now, keep in mind that when we came here the first time, it was where we sent out the spies from in Numbers 13. They went all up and down Israel, which is going to have an interesting plot turn today, as we're talking about the king of Arad. Let me zoom in on this now that you kind of got the picture. I'm going to just zoom in so you know exactly where I'm at still. And I'm going to go to 75. Here's Kadesh Barnea. We're going to talk about Mount Hor today. We're going to talk about this place right here, Arad, the king of Arad, very first verse. But I wanted to point out that we're talking about Kadesh Barnea. Kadesh. They always say Kadesh. They don't say Kadesh Barnea. It gets confusing. You think, oh, is that this different place? No. Kadesh in the wilderness, I think, is what they're saying. Holy in the wilderness. This is where Israel's been for a long time. But they left there, and for 38 years, quite a long time, they were wandering around the wilderness. They had wandered onto this side, up in here, on the other side of Seir. Here, this is Seir, S-E-I-R, to the land of Uz. There's Uz there. Well, I'm not going to go out that far. Let me do it this way again. I'll zoom back out. Land of Uz. So they've been up in here. They've come around. They were down in here for a while. But now in chapter 20, last week, it's talking about Miriam dying in Kadesh Barnea. Let me go and look at last week's verse, because this is important for us to understand. It says, Israel's seed, the whole congregation, came to the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed at Kadesh. Well, if you've been following along, it seems like we've been at Kadesh the whole time. Why does it say we're coming to Kadesh? Because there's like 38 years that has transitioned between Numbers 19 and Numbers 20. It says first month, Miriam died. This is the same place where we had, where we struck the rock. And he was supposed to speak to the rock. This is the same place years before that the ones who have passed away now, Korah, Dathan, Abiram, all the 3,550 who died in the wilderness, they're all dead. But this is the same place where they were alive, where Korah, Dathan, and Abiram tried to usurp Moses, where when they died, the people got angry at Moses, and then more people died. 15,000 died on that day. This is a significant place. We've been here a long time. Here, look. This is kind of interesting. Kadesh. It says holy. Kadesh. Kadesh means holy. Kadesh Barnea, sacred desert of wandering. Some of the things they mentioned, Joshua and Caleb giving a good report. This is where the spies were sent out from and came back to. Talking about the rock being struck twice, Miriam dying. See, you hardly can tell that there has been, there it is, 38 years. It is during these 38 years that they remained in or about Kadesh. No, I don't think they did remain near or about Kadesh, not according to what Yasher has to tell us. But it makes it look like they've been there the whole time. Because now here they are. In fact, look what the very first verse, again, last week, it says the people came to Kadesh. Here. They came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh. Well, were they always in Kadesh? You can't trust the Bible dictionaries. You got to think deeper. You got to research. And, understanding the Hebrew, or at least looking at the Hebrew, helps a lot. So, last week, remember, Israel asked King Hadad, like the fourth king of Seir, or of Edom, if we could pass through their land. They were not going to let us pass through their land. Here it is right here. I think, whoops, let me go back to this one. I think they wanted that we were asking if we could come down here and come through the land of Seir on the King's Highway, probably this one here. Our goal was to get to Le Avarim. Ye Avarim. Ye Ha Avarim is, I think, how it's going to be said. But they didn't want us to come. So instead, they actually came out against us. And now we have gone closer to them, which really surprises me why we would come nearer to the land of Seir. I mean, it's on the other side of the mountains. Remember, these are the Seir mountains. There is no Mount Seir. This is the Seir mountains. It's a mountain range. But we're coming towards them to get to Mount Hor, which is where Aaron died last week. And Joshua took, or not Joshua, Eleazar took his place. Well, now, here we are in our current verse. We're going to 21 today. And look, whoops, that's not it. We want to go to Torah. Here we are. And go to 21. And look at the very first verse. It says, the king of Arad, the Canaanite, who dwelt in the south, heard that Israel was coming on the road to Atarim. Then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoners. Road of Atarim, the way of the spies, is what we're talking about. Derek, Atarim, Ha-Atarim. Ha-Atarim. It's got a definite article behind it there. The way of the spies, or the spies' way, I think is really how you would say that. So they assumed that the spies went that way, that 40 years later, now we're going to come the same way. So they're going to try and head us off at the pass. Doesn't it make sense? Well, maybe I'll say that in a moment. So look at the very next verse. It says, so Israel made a vow with Yehovah and said, if you will indeed deliver the people into my hands, then I, talking about Israel, I, not we, I, because Ezra has no plural, so I think that makes sense, then I will utterly destroy their cities. Well, there's more to the story. And we saw it in Yasher, and I want to relay it to you right now. Here's the Derek Ha'atarim. And the key two words in this is the Taf and the Resh. And here it is. In this one, send your men that they may spy out the land of Canaan. Same word that we're talking about, or the same two letters. And I think that I guess I don't. They called this the road to Atarim. In other words, they didn't really translate Atarim to what it actually was. Here's Geneva Bible. They called it the way of the spies. Oh, I thought, that's interesting, because that's how I translated it, the way of the spies. And then here's King James. They said the way of the spies. The literal translation, way of the spies. Here's Atarim, way of Atarim, King James, the way of the spies. So I think the way of the spies is what we're talking about. It makes sense. But look at what it says in this next verse. It says Israel made a vow. Well, you know what? It didn't quite happen that way. If you follow Yasher and you believe what Yasher has to say, and I am a firm believer that Yasher can give us some definite insight into what was going on. And I think this is significant insight, especially, the people, we saw it last week. What was the very first, right in the beginning of last week? Look what it says. There was no water for the congregation, and they gathered together against Moses and Aaron. And the people contended with Moses and Aaron. Well, here we are. Have they changed or have they not changed? So it's continuing right here, fighting with the king of Arad. Look what it says in Yasher. Bear with me, I'm reading on the right. And the king of Arad, King Arad, the Canaanite, who dwelt in the south, heard that the Israelites had come by the way of the spies. And he arranged his forces to fight against the Israelites. And Israel's seed were greatly afraid of him, for he had a great and heavy army. So Israel's seed resolved to return to Egypt. Hear that? And Israel's seed turned back about a distance of 3 days' journey unto Mazerat, Beniakin. For they were greatly afraid on account of King Arad. And Israel's seed would not get back to their places. So they remained in Beniakin for 30 days. There's 30 days that are going by between the king attacking them and going back up. 30 days. And when Levi's seed, this is the Levites, saw that Israel's seed would not turn back, they were jealous for the sake of Yehovah. And they rose up and fought against the Israelites, their brethren, and slew of them a great body, and forced them to turn back to their place, Mount Hor. Apparently, they were still in Mount Hor when they left. And now look what it says. And when they returned, King Arad was still arranging his host for battle against the Israelites. Verse 7, and Israel vowed a vow, saying, if thou wilt deliver the people into my hands, then I again, there it is, I will utterly destroy their cities. That's what we're seeing now in verse 2. So there's a lot that was missing. And Yahweh hearkened to the voice of Israel, and he delivered the Canaanites into their hands. And he utterly destroyed them and their cities. And he called the name of the place Karamah. It says Hormah. Karamah is the word that we're talking about there. Now, think about this. Do you remember when Israel was in the wilderness? No, by Mount Sinai. And Moses was coming down with Joshua, and he heard the sound of something in the city or in their campsite. And it turned out that they were celebrating the golden calf. Remember that? Who was it that fought with Moses and Joshua to let these men know that they were out of line? Do you remember it was Levi? So interesting. When Jacob, right after Rachel died, you have to be quiet, sweetheart. Right after Rachel died, Jacob put his tent by Leah's maidservant. I want to say Bilhah. No, Rachel's maidservant. It was Bilhah. And Leah's eldest son was angry, Reuben, and went and slept with Bilhah. Do you remember that? Because of that, he was the firstborn. Because of that, Jacob took the birthright away from him and gave it to that would be the double blessing, or the double portion. Gave it to Joseph, which is why Manasseh and Ephraim are the two tribe members. There, he got two tribes. The kingship he gave to Judah, which is why Judah is always into the king portion of it. And the priestly portion he gave to Levi. Isn't that interesting? All through their time in the wilderness, remember, the Levites never worked. They knew something more. They were setting an example for Israel. And here they are yet again. How did they say that? They were jealous for the sake of Yehovah. Oh, I think that's so interesting. Well, so now Israel's coming back. And here we are in verse 2. And Yehovah listened to the voice of Israel and delivered the Canaanites, verse 3. And they utterly destroyed them in their cities. We're going to actually hit, that's that's the same verse. So the name of the place is called Keramah. There it is, Keramah. Utter destruction. That's what Keramah means. So Keramah is not a city, it's a battlefield. Potentially even a region with many cities around it, but it was taken down. Now it says, then they journeyed from Mount Hor by way of the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom, and the soul of the people became discouraged on the way. Now, you read this, you see Red Sea, and you think Red Sea. What is the Red Sea? The Gulf of Aqaba is what we're talking about, isn't it, when we talk about Red Sea? Let me go to my map. Here's the Gulf of Aqaba. This is the Aqaba Valley. This is going to be significant in a second. This is a very low portion between this part and this part. In fact, they're actually talking about making a canal up to this area and then out to the Mediterranean Sea. In current day idea of thinking. So the people went from Mount Hor after they got raided by the king of Arad, this guy up here. And they went, I think, down to this area, about a 3 days journey. It would put them probably down into Elad. So they came back up here now. Let's see what it says. Red Sea. Yeah, this whole business about the Red Sea. And they journeyed from Mount Hor. So that's what I was going to say. Let me go back to that. Were we talking about going up, down to here, and around? Even though we just in the last chapter, Sire told us, no, you're not coming through my land. And Yehovah told us not to fight with Seir at all. So what's going on? Red Sea. We got a false image here. And you know what? Almost all the translations, look, Red Sea, Red Sea. This says by the way of the sea, by the way of the sea. Red Sea, Red Sea, Red Sea, Red Sea. Sea of Saf. Oh, that's better. Sea of Saf. Yeah, that's much better. Got to ask yourself, what's Saf? Certainly is not red. Red Sea, Red Sea. But see, we got this idea that we've gone around somehow. And how do they do that? You can't do that quickly. And we'll see the timeline here in just a second. Let me go back. Here's Sea of Saf. Yam Saf. Yam Saf. Sea's edge. Sea's edge. Look what it says. Reeds. The plants that grow at the edge or the lip of a river or pond edge. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about the Red Sea. We're not talking about going that direction, because we got to look at it in the context of the way it's being written. Look what it says. This is Scripture's 1998. They did actually a pretty good job, and they departed from Mount Hor by way of the Sea of Reeds. Oh, that's so interesting, to go around the land of Edom. But the being of the people grew impatient because of the way. Yeah, it's got a lot of. There's no food. There's no what. Look what it says. Bear with me. And the people spoke against Elohim and Moses. Why hast thou brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and our soul loathes this worthless bread. Oh my gosh! Their attitudes are not improving yet, are they? Worthless bread. This is what has been sustaining them in the wilderness for 40 years. Yehovah has faithfully given it to them 6 days a week. I think most people feel the same way about Yehovah's Torah, the bread of life, which was sent to them from heaven, just like what they're calling the worthless bread. They call Yehovah's Torah worthless. Don't you know it's done away with? Well, keep in mind, the area that they are in right now is in the area just south of Sodom and Gomorrah. Have you seen modern day Sodom and Gomorrah? It is a desert, an ash heap. Hardly anything grows there. So could they be uptight because they have no food or water? I think so. But where are they? Let me keep reading. So the people said, here the people are complaining again. Now Yehovah is going to send fiery serpents among the people. And they bit the people, and many of the people of Israel died. Here they are dying again. They just were dying a couple days ago when the Levites were killing them. Now they turned back, fought against King Arad, took the whole area. You'd think they'd be starting to feel a little bit more optimistic. Gee, maybe we can do this. But now, here they are complaining again, and Yehovah's going to send another curse on them. It says, therefore the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against Yehovah and against you. Pray to Yehovah that he take away the serpents from us. So Moses prayed for the people. The serpents. What kind of area are these serpents in? Could it be, what do they call this area here? A reeded area? Do you think the low area in the Gulf or the Valley of Aqaba might have reeds in it? I think it could. Let's keep reading. Pray to Yehovah that he take away the serpents from us. So Yehovah prayed for the people. Then Yehovah said to Moses, make a fiery serpent. What is this called? He said, make a saraf. There it is. For thee a saraf. It's just the two letters, saraf. No, I guess it's three letters. Oh, for thee. There's the thee there. For thee, a saraf. A saraf. But and this is the same word where seraphim comes from. You know, we're talking about the angels, the seraphim. This is the same word that seraphim comes from. Here's a definition, plural, but saraf, noun, plural, seraphs. But sometimes the Hebrew plural seraphim is used, an angel of the highest order. This is Numbers 21. Oh, this is Numbers 21:8. So this is the same number in right now. Let me continue. Again, where are we? You have to keep asking yourself these questions. Where are we? So Moses made a bronze serpent. Moses. I thought Joshua made it. So Moses made a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. And so it was, if a serpent had bitten anyone, when he looked at the bronze serpent, he lived. This is a bronze serpent. Here's how you translated that. It's Nakash Nekoshet. Nakash Nekoshet. This bronze serpent is going to have history in Israel. Eventually, they're going to get rid of it because people started worshiping it instead of Yehovah. 21:9, okay. And there it is, the brass serpent, the Nakash Negoshet, Ha-Negoshet, the brass serpent. Now here it is in Isaiah and Hezekiah. This is what I was talking about. Hezekiah, removed the high places. He's cleaning up the land and broke down the sacred pillars, cut down the wooden image and ground it into dust, the bronze serpent that Moses had made. This is what we're talking about right now, the Nakash Nekoshet, until those days, Israel's seed burned incense to it and called it Nekoshtan. I don't know what Nekoshtan means. Anyway, now look what it says. Anyone who looked on it lived. So again, the people are starting to see Yehovah serious. Now it says, now Israel's seed moved on and camped at Ovat. Where's Ovat? See, if you don't have a map, you still could keep this false image about the Red Sea going through your mind, couldn't you? Here it is. Here's Ovat. Now, if they're going this direction, and they're at Mount Hor, right here, where are they going to Ovat? And is it possible that on the way to Ovat, we're going to see the kind of the reeds going on, the leftovers? Here's Zor. Remember, that was where Lot fled to, Zor. Is it possible this place is really desolate and doesn't have a lot of water? I think so. But here we are, Ovat. And look at what the next verse says. And they journeyed from Ovat and camped at Le Ha Avarim. Here it is. Avarim. In the wilderness, which is east of Moab, toward the sunrise. Okay, where is that? We've got to get a better picture. Remember, we got to go around Esau. Is it possible you went around Esau the other direction? I think so. Look what it says here. Here's Ye-ha-avarim. Right here. Is it possible that we went from Ovat down here along the Dead Sea to this ascent and came where? To Ye-ha-avarim. There it is right there. Ye-ha-avarim. Let me zoom in on it. There it is. Can you see that maybe they came up this way and missed Seir altogether? They just took the path all the way up, right to there. That's where it's at. Ye-ha-avarim. Now it talks about going to the, this is the Zered River, or the Zered Brook, they call this. I think they're going to the desert trail here. That's what it's called, the desert trail. Yeah, desert route. So I think they're going up to here next. Look what it says. And from there they moved. No, here it is. Did I read all my notes? Ye-avarim, runes of the Avarim, Israelites. They call it this 47th station. This is where they camped in the wilderness. We came to the King's Highway. So there we are coming to the King's Highway. But I think we're going beyond the King's Highway to the desert road. Because we're not going to go through the middle of Moab. Because look what it's going to say. And they journeyed from above and pitched at Avarim in the wilderness, which is in front of Moab, toward the rising of the sun. Came before Moab on the east, before the rising of the sun. Now it says in the very next verse, from there they moved and camped in the valley of Zerad. Where is the valley of Zerad? It's not going back down. It's up river. This is near the Zerad Brook, possibly the head of the river. And again, let me show you the picture that we're talking about, and let me tell you a little bit about what's going on here. First, here it is. We went from here. I think we're going to here now. We're going to this desert trail because the next stop is going to be Kedemot, I guess. There's no R. Kedemot. That's going to be our next stop. Now, let me give you some background information on this because I think this is important. I may have to go even a little bit further. This is Gilead that we're talking about. This is the area that we're going to take today from the Zerad Brook. Remember, it's the Zerad Brook that separates Moab from Esau, Seir, or Edom is what would probably be called right now at the period that we're climbing this brook. But 20 years before, Moab had land from Zerad all the way up to Yabok, the Yabok River. Jabbok, that's how they always put it. They put a J on it. But they had this whole area was Moab. And Sihon, king of the Amorites, had this section in here. And he wanted Moab's land. This was in our 20th year in the wilderness. And remember, we saw it in Yasher 2 weeks ago. He brought Beor, and Balaam down from Pethor, which is on the Mesopotamian river, and they cursed Moab. We're going to see their actual words in this chapter today that we're going to read. And Sihon took all of Moab's land all the way down to the Arnon River. And now Moab has this little section right here. This is where they're at. So we went up through a little bit of Moab when we were coming to the Yehavarim, and then going to the top. Yahuwah is going to tell us, don't hurt Moab. Don't war with Moab. Now, if Moab hadn't have lost all this land from the Arnon all the way up, this is Gilead, Arnon, all the way up to here, Mount Hermon, almost to Damascus. This is all going to be our land. This is the land of Gilead. This is what we're taking today. Oh my gosh. Well, let me see if I can kind of guide you into this campaign against the Amorites, because this is Amorite land from the Arnon River all the way up to Mount Hermon. It's all Amorite lands, all lands of the Amorites. Two different kings. Sihon has the lower half, and Og has the upper half. Og's portion is much bigger. Let's continue reading. From there they moved and camped on the other side of the Arnon, which is in the wilderness that extends from the border of the Amorites. For Arnon is the border of the Moabites, border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. That's where Arnon is. It's the division between the two opposing forces, Amorites, Moabites. Let me show you a note I found here. I put Arnon is the new border after Sihon had taken their lands between the Jabbok and the Ammon rivers. This is what's going on in Numbers 21, 27. We're going to see kind of a flashback in history here in just a moment. But look what it says here in Yasher. It says, Israel's seed journeyed from the border of Moab, and they came to the other side of the Arnon. This is the border of Moab. Came to the other side of the Arnon. Remember, that's the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. And they pitched in the border of Sihon, king of the Amorites, where? In the wilderness of Kedemoth. That was Yasher. Here it is in Deuteronomy. And I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, let me pass through your lands. I will keep strictly to the road. I will not turn. I will turn, and I will turn neither to the right or to the left. Kedemoth, that's where they're at. Torah doesn't tell us about Kedemoth here, but it does mention it in Deuteronomy. Yasher has it also. Now, this next portion, all in the yellow that we're going to talk about here, is what's written in it looks like Wahav Sofa. Wahav Sofa. Well, that's not really it. It's Vahav. Vahav. It's a V, not V, it's a Vahav. And consuming is Sofa. So it kind of says so far. But what is that? The Book of Wars of Yahovah. Sofa, I'm sorry, Wahav Sofa. Wahav in Sofa. It's in the consuming. I think what it's actually saying, this is my words, what he did in the consuming at the brook of Anan. What who did? What Yahovah did. That's what it says, the wars of Yahovah. Now he's going to tell us about the war and the slope of the brooks that reach to the dwelling of Ar and lies in the border of Moab. Here we are, lies in the border of Moab. Here we are. Whoops, I guess I got to go from there to here. Let me zoom in again. Much easier to see if I zoom in a bit. So here we are, the Arnon River, the border between Og of the Amorites and Moab. Here they're talking about Ar. Here's Kedemoth. We're going to talk about Jahaz. We're going to talk about Atarot. And we're going to talk about Medeba here very shortly. Let's go back. So this is the Book of Wars. This is describing what we're going to do here starting at 21, giving us a heads up, if you will. And the slope of the brook that reaches to the dwelling of Ar, that's what we were just talking about, and lies in the border of Moab. From there they went to Be'er, which is the well where Yahovah said to Moses, gather the people and I will give them water. So now they're getting their water. Then Israel sang this song, spring up, O well, within my soul. Spring up, O well. Yeah, all of you sing it. And the well of the leaders sank. The leaders sank, dug by the nation's nobles, by the lawgivers with their staves. And from the wilderness, they went to Mettanah, wilderness of what? Wilderness of Kedemoth. This is where they were just at. They went to Mettanah, from Mettanah to Nachaliel, from Nachaliel to Bamoth. And from Bamoth, in the valley which is in the country of Moab, to the top of Pisgah, Bamoth, valley of Moab, top of Pisgah, which looks down on the wasteland. The wasteland. This is the wasteland that we're talking about, where Yahovah did the consuming. Let's look. Here it is. What was the name of the town? Let me look it up again. Sorry. Bamoth, Pisgah. Let's look for Bamoth and Pisgah. If it's green, I found it. Let's go back there. Whoops. No, that's what I want. Oh, no. All right, sorry. I'm driving. I'll probably make your video go crazy. Sorry about that. Bamoth. And did it say Pisgah? I know it's there. Oh, here, Bamoth. Baal. That's it right here. And was it Pisgah? I think they were talking about Pisgah. This is all in near the valley, which is where we're going to end up once this campaign is over. We're going to end up right here, right across from Jericho. Jericho's going to fall down. First, we got to take Gilead. That's what we're doing right now. Going back. So, we told you that to tell you what we're going to be doing. This is what we did. Now this is us doing it. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, look at this. This picks up again from verse 13. So all this stuff is added. There's 13. We came to the other side of the order. Now we're going to send messengers to Sihon. Let me pass through your land. We will not turn aside into the fields or vineyards. We will not drink any water from wells. We will go by the king's highway until we pass through your land. Well, now they're saying the king's highway, so maybe they are going to drop down. But look what it says. Pass through your highway. Oh, here. This is Deuteronomy. And again, remember, we're leaving at Kedemot. We were at Kedemot. And I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemot to Sihon, king of Heshbon. There it is. Sent messengers to Sihon, king of Heshbon. They just don't tell us what the wilderness was. They just said wasteland. I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemot to Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, "Let me pass through your land. I will keep strictly to the road. I will not turn aside to the right or to the left. You shall sell me food for money, but that I may eat, and give me water for money that I may drink. Only let us pass through on foot, just as the descendants of Esau who dwell in Seir, and the Moabites who dwell in Ar did for me, until I cross to the Jordan, till I cross the Jordan to the land which Jehovah our Elohim is giving us." So our goal is to cross the Jordan and take the promised land. But we're getting a benefit. We're going to get the land of Gilead also for 2.5 tribes of Israel. Half of the tribe of Manasseh is going to take part of Bashan. Esau did not let Israel pass through their land. I don't know why I have that there. Okay, let's go ahead. 23. But Sihon would not allow Israel to pass through his territory. So Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel in the wilderness, and he fought and he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel. Jahaz seems to be the last place where they're fighting. Here, let me show you. Again, here's Jahaz. Here's Kedemot. He came to them in the wilderness, to Kedemot. And it sounds like they're going to fight to Jahaz to overcome him. Let me see what my note says. Then Sihon and all his people came out against us to fight at Jahaz. So they fought at Jahaz, apparently. Fought against Israel. It says in 24, then Israel defeated him with the edge of the sword and took possession of the land from the Arnon to the Jabbok. That's all of Sihon's lands. As far as the people of Ammon, for the border of the people of Ammon was fortified. So let's talk about Ammon. Let's talk about Jabbok. We now have the property from Arnon to Jabbok. We just took it for ourselves. Here it is. Arnon, Jabbok. Here is Heshbon, capital city of Sihon. It was the old capital city of the Moabites before Sihon took it from them. We fought at Jahaz. I wanted to show you the Ammon, because we're talking about from here to here, and the border. What was the border? They said something about Ammon. Here's Ammon. I can turn on political boundaries, and this portion right here is Ammon. This is Ammon. This is where the Ammonites live. Remember, Moabites, Ammonites, two sons of Lot by his own daughters. So we've got this land here, all the way down to the Arnon River is now ours. All the way up to here, the Jabbok River. But we want more. We're going to continue north. Look what's going to happen. Let me turn this off. We don't want this around anymore. Whoops, I hit the wrong one. I want to do political boundaries. There we go. All right. Let's go back. Isn't this map handy to have? I mean, just for me, it makes things come to life. This is what I need. When I turned to Torah 25 years ago, that's what I did 3 times in a row as I read Torah. The first time I read it, Genesis to Malachi. The second time I looked at all the places on the map. And the third time I did it looking at all the people and how they related one to the other. And I'm still doing that, of course. And learning the history of how it all comes down. Yasher's helped a lot. If you don't have Yasher, you've got to get Yasher. You're handicapped without Yasher. '24. Ammon to Jabbok is Sihon territory. It's now our territory. Verse 25. So Israel took all these cities, and Israel dwelt in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon, and in all its villages. Remember Heshbon, I just pointed it out to you, we're kind of right in the center, is the capital city. His capital city. Here it is. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab. So there's the history. If you don't know Yasher, you wouldn't know this. Happened 20 years ago, and had taken all his land from his hand as far as Arnon. Remember, he drove the Moabites all the way back to that smaller portion. Now, he's also the one who hired, we're talking about Sihon, Sihon hired Peor and Balaam, his son, to come down from Pethor, Mesopotamia, all the way down to here to curse Moab. This is their curse. 21, this is all in the blue. It says, therefore, those who speak in Proverbs. Who speaks in Proverbs? Peor and Balaam. In fact, here it is, Yasher. Therefore, the parable speakers, they actually tell us who it is. Beor and Balaam, his son, utter these words, saying, come unto Heshbon. I'm reading on the right. The city of Sihon will be built and established. Woe to thee, Moab. Thou art lost, O people of Chemosh. Chemosh is their god. Behold, is it not written in the book of the law of God? And it is. I think this is actually where it's written, right here. We're reading it right now. This section from verse 26 to 30 is yet another hiatus to describe how Sihon happened to get this land. So this is going back in history, 20 years. Here's what it is. Those who speak in Proverbs say, come to Heshbon, let it be built, really rebuilt. let the city of Sihon be repaired. There it is. For fire went out from Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon to consume Ar of the Moabites. So Ar was as far as they got. They consumed Ar, which is in that territory of the Moabites currently. The lords of the heights of Arnon. So those must be the masters of the heights of Arnon, the leaders of Moab. Woe to you, Moab! You have perished, O people of Chemosh. He has given his sons as fugitives. Has given his sons as fugitives. What do I have here? His sons have been given to fight, and his daughters into captivity, to Sihon, king of the Amorites. Chemosh is the god of the Moabites. Okay. But, verse 30, but we have shot him. Heshbon has perished as far as Dibon, and then we laid waste as far as Nophah, which reaches to Medeba. Dibon, Medeba, we were just looking at those things. I just pointed them out to you. Let's just look at them again. Dibon was, where's Dibon? Here's Medeba. There's Dibon. Medeba, there it is. Medeba, Dibon. So this was Beor and Balaam's prophecy. Thus, Israel dwelt in the land of the Amorites. So now we've taken the land for ourselves. It used to be the land of the Moabites. Then it became the land of Sihon. Now it's going to be our land. But Jehovah used Sihon to take it from them and then give it to us. You know, if he hadn't, he's not going to let us war against the Moabites. He's already told us we're not going to war against the Moabites. We just don't see it in Yasher. But if the Moabites still had all that land all the way to the Jabbok, we wouldn't have had it. It wouldn't have been ours. But because Jehovah used Sihon to greedily take it 20 years before we got there, now we can take it from him. We couldn't have taken it from the Moabites. Interesting. 21:32. We're almost done. Then Moses sent to spy out Yazer. Yazer must be a very major city in this country. Here, let me show you where Yazer's at. Sunshine, it's okay. I'm watching a couple dogs today. So they're laying on my bed here. Sunshine. Shh. Here it is, Yazer. Still in between the Jabbok River and the Arnon, the Arnon, still in that same land. This is probably right on the border of the Ammonites. The Ammonites, I always remember the Ammonites because their property starts right kind of even with the top of the Dead Sea and goes up to the Jabbok River. So from this area all the way around here is the Ammonites' land. That's how I remember it. So here's what Yasher says. Yasher has us going to Jazer after we had killed Og and taken his land. It makes more sense that we took Yazer before we attacked Og. Yes, it does. This is what Yasher has to say, but I think what we're reading here, then Moses sent to spy out Yazer, and they took the villages and drove out the Amorites who were there. Then we go to Og and Idri, and battle at Idri. Here's what it says in Yasher. And I think this Yasher, most times I think Yasher's right. I think that Yasher's wrong this time. It's got the order, I think, mixed up, in my opinion. And Moses went down to him with a small number of the children of Israel, and Moses smote Og. This is talking about Og. Remember I said they went from Og and then they went to Yazer. We'll read this again. I'm going to start at 29. Moses afterwards sent some of Israel's seed to spy out Yazor, for Yazor was a very famous city. And the spies went to Yazor and explored it, and the spies trusted in Jehovah, and they fought against the men of Yazor. Do you see how now the spies are not afraid? Does Israel, I think Israel is in the process of becoming warriors. They were fraidy cats, discouraged, picked on. And now they're getting a new frame of a new guide. You know, in a sense, that's kind of what's happening to the world today. We're afraid of the giants in the land. They're literal giants that we're getting ready to take out here in the next verse. But we've got giants in our land and we're fraidy cats. And we got to put on some guts. I don't have my I will not comply shirt today. I have my Jehovah is my strength shirt. Fits very well with what's going on right now because they are starting to realize they're warriors. They're not fraidy cats. They're not slaves to the powers that be. No, they serve a different Elohim. And I think they're starting to realize it. Now the spies are bringing back a good report. Thank Yehovah. 21:33. And they turned and went up by the way of Bashan. So Og, king of Bashan, went out against them, he and his people, to battle at Edrei. Let's look at the map. Here is Bashan. From here all the way up. Here it says Bashan. All the way up to Mount Hermon. Oh, it's really far up. There's Mount Hermon way up here. This Farpar River, is this the border of the Bashan? The Bashan goes all the way out to here. We're just crossing over here. The last thing we did was take out Yazor. Now we're heading up the King's Highway. And where are we going to fight? Edrei. He's coming out to meet us at Edrei. Where is Og's home base? Ashtaroth. Right here, Ashtaroth. That's his main base. That's his where his palace is at. He's coming out to fight us. We're going to take all this land from Jabbok all the way to Mount Hermon. You know, they never talk about Yarmuk River, this one here. They never talk about it. It's all part of Gilead. This is all Gilead. He's got the second half of Gilead. He's got the bigger half of Gilead. Though I think it's not near as populated as the lower half is, depending on if you can look at the cities. And it's the only reason I say that. There's so few cities that are up here. All right. Edrei, Ashtaroth. Let's go back. Almost done, folks. And they turned and went up by way of Bashan by the way to Bashan. By the road to Bashan is probably the road. Way dark is probably the word they're using. So Og, king of Bashan, went out against them, and he and all his people to battle at Edrei. Here's my notes for this. Deuteronomy, Joshua. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnants of the giants. Indeed, his bedstead was an iron bedstead. Is it not in Rabbah of the people of Ammon? 9 cubits is 13.5 feet is its length, and 4 cubits, 6 feet is its width. according to the standard cubits. I go by 18 inches. Some people go by 21 inches. For we have heard, this is Joshua, how Jehovah dried up the waters of the Red Sea for you when you came in out of Egypt, and what you did with the two kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. This is Joshua 9. All that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og of Bashan, who was in Ashtaroth. I had this verse because I wanted you to see he lived in Ashtaroth. This is where he's coming out to Edrei to fight. Here's the fight. Then Jehovah said to Moses, do not fear him, for I have delivered him into thy hand. Isn't that interesting? Is he talking about Moses' hand? This is a singular, the second person singular. Thy hand, with all his people and all his land, and thou shalt do to him as thou, again, singular. Is it singular because Israel is Ezra and there is no plural for that? Just like we saw in that very first verse at the beginning of the thing when they called it I. As thou did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon. Now, this is the verse that we just went through. I just wanted to say they say thy, thou. Here's Deuteronomy. And they took possession of his land, the land of Og, king of Bashan, two kings of the Amorites, who were on the other side of the Jordan toward the rising of the sun. Here's again, Yasher. Look what Yasher has to say about Og. This guy, I think he was a lot bigger than 13 feet. Let's look. And Og said in his heart, behold, the whole camp of Israel takes up a space of 3 parsas. 3 parsa. Now I will smite them at once without sword or spear. And Og went up to Mount Yahaz and took therefrom one large stone, the length of which was 3 parsa. And he placed it on his head and resolved to throw it upon the camp of Israel's seed to smite all the Israelites with the stone. And an angel of Jehovah came and pierced the stone upon the head of Og, and the stone fell upon the neck of Og, and that fell on the neck of Og, that Og fell to the earth on account of the weight of the stone upon his neck. At that time, Jehovah said to Israel's seed, be not afraid of him, for I have given him and all his people and all his land into your hand, and you shall do to him as you did to Sihon. And Moses went down, look at this, Moses went down with him a small number of Israel's seed, and Moses smote Og with a stick at the ankles of his feet and slew him. Moses slew Og with a stick on his feet. This is after the rock fell on his head, of course. But I wonder if Moses is using the rod of Elohim. Remember, Sihon is a Nephilim, part man, part demon, dare I say, fallen angel, slew him, it says, with a stick at the ankles of his feet and slew him. That's why I wonder if maybe the power of Elohim touching this corrupted thing just took it out. Then it says, and Israel's seed afterwards pursued Og's seed and all his people, and they beat and destroyed them till there was no remnant. I meant to add this. Left them. That's what it said in Asher. I just did copy paste it because it was on the page. There was no remnant left them. Then Jehovah said to Moses, do not fear him. I have delivered him in your hand. We read that. Last verse. So they defeated him, his sons, and all his people until there was no survivor left, him. And they took possession of his land. What did they say? This was Yasher. No remnant left of them. No survivor left him. And they took possession of his land. Well, there's a little bit more that I want you to see. This is in Yasher, and I think I had, something from Joshua and Deuteronomy. Here's Yasher. And Israel's seed took land of the two Amorites, 60 cities, which were on the other side of the Jordan, from the brook of Arnon onto Mount Hermon. There it is. Arnon to Hermon. And Israel's seed, that's Gilead. And Israel's seed journeyed and came into the plain of Moab. Where's the plain of Moab? It tells us right here, which is on the other side of the Jordan by Jericho. Here we are. Let me show you. This is where they're reuniting here, or right here. I think we're going to see Yeshemot. Later on, we're going to see that before we cross over the Jordan. But this is the plain of Moab right here. And this has got Mount Peor, Pisgah, and Nebo. All places where curses are going to be done. Let's go to the next verse. And we utterly destroyed them as we did to Sihon, talking about. Hey, that's enough, baby. Please, that's enough. We're almost done. We utterly destroyed them as we did to Sihon, king of Heshbon. Utterly destroying, look what it says, the men, the women, the children of every city. Now, I know that Israel's seed took virgins. We're going to see that later on, that we're going to take virgins who, and there's a process for bringing a virgin from another country into your city. We'll talk about that. I forget where it's at. Maybe it's in Deuteronomy. It must be in Deuteronomy. Anyway, they kill everybody. These are the kings of the land. Now this is Joshua. These are the kings of the land whom Israel's seed defeated. Hold on. I'm sorry, I gotta take this. Everton, hi. Oh no, they did? He was what? Oh, that really sucks. Okay. Well, thank you. I think I'm gonna go to the back of it where that other lady is. Yeah. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Thank you, Everton. Yeah. Bye-bye. I lost my place at the flea market. Somebody took it this week. That may be happening again. Darn. I got a backup plan though. Okay. This is Joshua. Sorry, folks. All the interruptions. We're almost done. This is the last portion. I'm going to show you one verse of the next verse of the next chapter. These are the kings of the land whom Israel's seed defeated and whose land they possessed on the other side of the Jordan, toward the rising of the sun from the river Arnon to Mount Hermon. just so we know we got the right spot. All the eastern Jordan plain. One king was Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon and ruled half of Gilead, from Aor to the river Or, which is on the river Arnon, from the middle of the river, even as far as Jabbok, which is on the border of the Ammonites. And the eastern Jordan plain from the Sea of Cinnerot, this is the Sea of Galilee, as far as the Sea of Arba, a salt sea, that's the one that's just above, the road to Beth Jeramot. Oh, that's the one I was just talking about just a second ago. And the southwest below the slopes of Pisgah. Yeah, that was right across from the Jericho on the plain of Moab. The other king was Og, king of Bashan, and his territory, who was of the remnant of the giants who dwelt at Ashtaroth, and at Edrei, and reigned over Mount Hermon, over Shalkah, over all Bashan, as far as the border of the Girgashites and the Macharites, and over half of Gilead, to the border of the king, to Sihon, king of Heshbon. Again, we got all Gilead. Now, the last thing I want you to see is the next verse that we're going to talk about. Look what it says. Then Israel's seed moved and camped in the plain of Moab, on the side of the Jordan across from Jericho. And that's where we're going to pick it up next week. We now own all this property. Do you think Israel's seed is starting to get their self-image improved? I think we're going to see that modern day as the deep state is taken down and people begin to rise up to what and who they truly are, and the rights that they possess but don't know it yet. They're coming to mind. I see this happening. But this still has nothing to do with Yahovah in these days. There's still much to happen in these days. Well, folks, we're going to stop now. Thank you for joining me. I hope I didn't go too long. Sorry for the interrupting call, for the dogs barking. I know it was a little bit different than usual, but we made it through. Yahovah bless you. We'll see you again next week. Please remember to like my lesson here. And thanks so much for coming. Catch you all later. Bye now.